fun begins.
Hello, and welcome to the Council. We begin tonight's meeting of the Council by calling the Council to order. Hello to everyone. Thanks for joining us. The Council is a live Twitch talk show and podcast discussing Star Wars: The Old Republic. I'm Elise, and with me are my fellow Council members, Redna.
Hey, hey, hey.
And Sakari.
Hey, hey, hey.
Unfortunately, Magic Ace is not able to join us tonight. So it's just us three.
Yes, indeed. And her beautiful hologram.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Magic.
She is with us in hollow spirit.
Yes.
Actually,
I think she's in chat, in all honesty. I think I saw her put her...
Really?
So she is watching. She's just not available to join us tonight live. So I'm sure we'll still have her input live. We'll make sure to read it as we go.
Tonight we're going to talk about staying healthy as a Star Wars: The Old Republic player. And really what we're going to be talking about is probably applicable to many games, not just this one.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
What does it mean to be healthy? After the live broadcast, you can find our recorded episodes everywhere podcasts are found and on our YouTube channel. Check out our social media and don't forget to follow on Twitch! ! You can find our Facebook page at facebook.com/thecouncilswotor and our Twitter at thecouncilswotor. You can also find our Patreon page at patreon.com/thecouncilswotor.
There's absolutely no chance whatsoever that Redna is reading a pre-written line at all right there. Okay, so let's get into the icebreaker. The icebreaker, of course, is a question that just kind of gets our discussion started for the night. Something nice and easy, a little bit on the surface, but we'll go from there. Question of the night: is healthiness something that you personally take seriously? And if so, what efforts have you engaged in the past to try to stay healthy? Let us start with Elise.
Oh, man. I should be healthier.
I was going to say, if you can't think of anything.
No. I do have to say that I've been taking, I think, a little bit longer breaks than I had maybe 3 years ago. So, but some of that is just by design. My kids are busier, we're busier. Right. So I just don't have the time to plop my butt in front of the computer. So I really need to be walking more. I've gotten a little lazy. So, yeah.
Yes.
So there you go.
Hey, it works.
We're talking about actual healthy. If we're talking about being a gamer and healthy, I attempt to change up what I'm doing so that I don't get overly salty, or at least I try not to.
Right.
So
yeah, no,
for my mental game ness, I really kind of shuffle and deal often in games. Let's say.
Shuffle and deal. Sounds like Redda's kind of thing in Hearthstone. No. You can definitely you can definitely define healthiness however you want. So if it's exercise that you want to talk about, then feel free. Go for it.
I did all of it.
Yeah,
I did a little bit of all.
Yeah, taking breaks. There's a lot to it, and we're definitely going to explore a lot of it tonight. So we'll definitely dig deeper. Redna, what about you?
Healthiness is not something that I have traditionally given a rat's 2 cents for. So no, I haven't taken it seriously until about 5 months ago when my wife told me that I needed to do so in order to survive our child. So now I'm trying very hard, which is why I've lost 25 pounds, and I'm working even harder to get the cholesterol under control. These things that really didn't matter before. No grains. I had to cut them entirely.
Really out. My goodness.
No bread, no pasta. It's killing me.
Wow.
No rice even. Can't have corn because apparently that's a grain.
Yeah, so you're on the carb and no carb diet, right? Atkins or something? What do you?
Well, it's like 5% carbs, but
yeah.
It's high fat diet so that it burns my fat first.
I'd say I thought that you're just being contrarian. You're like, I didn't care. I don't care a thing about exercise or healthiness or anything. And then
Yeah,
it took a random left turn right there.
Stupid activity levels. That gets in the way of the video games.
This is true. Oh yeah. So if I must say,
Although I have a controller, and you guys can't see, but my treadmill is literally right there.
really,
Yes, it's right here.
a controller and
I
a
have to walk
treadmill.
past it to get to my computer,
Oh,
and I have a
So
controller
it kills
that
you
will
every
make
time
it there.
so
And my
you
my
could
TV with my PlayStation 4 is literally right there, so
now.
I can actually farm stuff on my treadmill.
I will admit, years ago when I was like really hardcore into League of Legends, between game queues, me and my friends would like challenge each other to doing push-ups or sit-ups during the entire queue time, which is great when it's, you know, a 15-second queue. But when the queues start to get to be like 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes and you're trying to continue doing push-ups and sit-ups whole time, yeah.
Dang it, queue times.
Right?
That's hilarious.
But, you know, people complain about queue times. That's why.
That's hilarious. Oh yeah. So Chad, we have a story of somebody used to raid while walking on a treadmill.
Oh my God! Yeah,
Raiding it.
I've heard about that
You
actually.
get some
I've heard about the
genuflecting from me because I can't imagine trying to do that and not fall off.
And pay attention. And to not stand in stupid, you know, like, oh my goodness, that'd be terrible.
With a mouse and keyboard, I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I won't do
hard
that on
enough
a
with the controller.
computer, but I've definitely considered whenever I'm watching TV I intend on someday maybe buying a bicycle again. I haven't had one for years. But if I do, I already looked up for not the bike, but the bike mount, the indoor one. So it like suspends your rear tire. And that way you can use it like a treadmill in front of the TV. And I figure like whenever I watch television, I should be doing the treadmill.
Totally, yeah.
Crank the volume up and ride the whole time.
Until you're watching like a 3-hour movie.
Finish Star Wars Rebels, so I don't have like 20-minute exercise times anymore.
And I'm telling you, like I said, mine's right here, and I'm not on it even a quarter of as much as I should be. So I was like, oh, you know, it's folded up right now.
So, okay, so if I was to answer this question, I would like to be less concentrating on health, but I'm kind of forced to as a result of work. So my work has a very interesting health plan that kind of forces us to do some things. What they do is they say, okay, everybody, we've got a discounted rate for you, but the only way that you do that is to score X amount of points for the year. And in order to score those points, there's classes that you can attend for, you know, that have, you know, nutrition and things like that. So you can do that, and then they give you points for like attending a health club and points for everything you can think of, getting exercise. But you have to, a lot of it is kind of on the honor system, but then they do challenges throughout the whole thing. Like one of them was you need to walk like 80,000 steps in 3 weeks or something, or 4 weeks or something like that. So people were, and they put us in teams and then make us all compete against each other. So we did it, you know, like I was doing ridiculous amounts of steps every day just to try to, and that was okay during the spring until it started getting hot outside. Then you started to really feel, because it's no fun to show up at work. Everyone's like, hey, we're going to go take a quick walk at 10:30. Heck yeah, sounds good. So you make a couple laps around the building and then you come back in and you're all sweaty and then you have to finish your work day. It feels like when I was a kid when I went on break, you know. Oh my goodness. So
We have something like that at my work.
Really?
We had the Biggest Loser contest
nice. The Biggest Loser.
just like 2 months ago. So I feel you. We
Yeah, my
have
last job they actually did something.
things like that.
There was actually a web app that it was like a zombie chase horde mode, but basically you use like fitness trackers or step counters in order to record how many steps you took during the day, and then the company broke into teams, and then whichever team got to the goal each day got into like a safe house or whatever. But by the end, something like 80% of the teams were zombies. And what happened was then those step counts still contributed to the game, but it contributed to the zombies that were chasing you down. It was
That's awesome.
really bad.
I've always thought, like, if you want to turn like a game of tag, because my kids play tag a lot, you know, they're running around doing, you know, and it's good, they get to spend their energy But I've always thought it would be great to kind of. This is what your zombies thing made me think of, Redna. But play reverse tag, where instead of I'm it and everyone else is who I'm chasing, we should play like zombie tag, where everyone else is it and I'm the one that they're chasing. You want to talk about a workout? That'd be pretty intense. Yeah, zombie tag. So,
Speaking of which, I want to see that movie. It looks really funny.
Zombie tag or the tag?
Tag.
It's called
yeah.
Tag. Yeah, it's got
yeah.
Hawkeye is the guy who's never been it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, good times. So yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a topic. If we want to talk about diet or there's kind of it's kind of broad in some of the things we've touched on tonight, but we will definitely touch a little bit again on toxicity, engaging on trolls, what the idea of being desensitized by games is that a thing, and is that something that you can make steps to avoid? We'll talk about addiction and burnout and keeping a good attitude, I guess, making sure that you don't get too mad or annoyed at the game. So there's a lot to this. The whole idea is staying healthy as a gamer, definitely applying it to our trip through SWTOR. So that's how we get started tonight. Elise, would you like to take us
Talk
through?
about the poll?
Yeah, the poll. Let's talk about the poll. How about I send to
Okay,
chat?
So, and I don't know what's going on with the straw poll. I just noticed for the results, we'll get to them later, did something very funky in the results. Anyway,
I think I know maybe what it might be.
weird.
I have a theory, but we can talk about it.
Okay. What's the longest you've taken a break from SWTOR is what we asked the community. A was a break, never. B is about a month. C is crazy, I know, but about 3 months. D, don't tell, but it was about a half a year. E, oh, this is Redna all over it.
Yes.
Just like hit me that we're doing A, B, C, D. Okay, sorry, I was distracted. So D is don't tell, but it was about half a year. E is ever been missing for a year. I have. And F was forever not back yet.
That's for all the slackers that played at launch and then haven't played the game since and are somehow taking part in our polls. So feel free to answer in chat, everybody. A, B, and C, and D, all of the questions have been sent to chat by the attendant. Oh, yes, or down to F. Just answer the letter that corresponds to the option. And, of course, every one of the options starts with the corresponding letter. Then that is Redna's genius, the kind of brilliance that Redna brings to the show. And then we'll give you guys a few minutes to do that. While you do that, we will answer how we answered the poll. So, okay, so generally we have some categories, right? We had nobody's ever taken a break. Maybe about a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year. And then F was I've never been back. So, and somebody, if you're between, I guess if you've been like gone for 3 years, maybe you can say E for a year. Does that sound fair for people to sort themselves into that option? I don't know. 3 years sure feels like forever, so I guess they can pick one.
Actually, I think I made this multi-choice.
Yes. Okay, so maybe if it was pick all that apply, I can say every one up to the one that corresponds, right? So if I have been gone for 3 months, I have I guess been gone for a month, and I've been gone for 3 months. So I'd say B and C for that. Is that the idea?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it really wasn't a year for us to be able. I mean, 3 years is more than a year, but it's not as many as forever. So.
Right. So how do you guys shape up? Have any of you either ever taken a break in your time, like that's for any length of time in playing SWTOR?
Are you asking us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we talk about us before we talk about the Redna. Have you ever taken a break from this game?
Yeah, probably inadvertently. I'm just trying to figure out how long. Like, it's either 3 months or 1 month. I don't know if I've actually taken a whole 3 months off. So, but I don't know. So in the straw poll, I voted for a month, and in the chat room, I voted for 3 months, because I don't know, somewhere in there.
Oh yes, maybe I can vote too. I should probably put something on the board. Let's see. I think I'm going to go for about 3 months as well. And that was option C, I believe. 3 months. Elise, you ever taken a break?
Officially, no. No, and especially not since I was either handed the guild leader role or co-guild leader role. Because if I take a break,
The guild dies.
like
Ain't that the truth?
problem.
Nothing will make you play a game like running a guild. Oh goodness sakes, that's true.
kind of problem. But technically, not since I started playing in, what was that, 2015, 2014, 2015?
Whereabouts in 2014, 2015? Was it kind of early in the year of 2015?
No, it was
End of
Memorial Day
2014?
weekend. I came in right as we were doing the 12X experience. So if you
Okay.
remember when that was, it was after Shadow of Revan, before, what was it, 4.0 or something? I came in at the very end of
Okay.
3.0 or three, yeah, the threes when they went to 4 point.
Right.
So it was Memorial Day weekend is when I officially subbed, although I had the game for 6 months before that. But I just kind of played it a little bit here or there. I was free to play. However, I do have to say that I have taken, we'll say, breaks from playing a lot. So
you just turn it
I've had-
down, is what you're saying. You kind of
Yes.
put it. You turn it to simmer for a while, and then you turn it back up when you're more.
Yes. So I'll show up for like events or WOG, and then, I don't really do much more than that, and I'll play other stuff. So I've done that off and on actually since Kotfi and Kotet, frankly. Kind of off and on, and I think we've been over why that is for me. So
Right. Previous episodes, people, they're all on YouTube. You can find them. They're all on podcast apps. You can find. Well, not all of them, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think I can understand. I was asked in chat here, weren't you running a guild when you took a break? I was, and in the middle of 2015, I went through some real rough personal time. And I had begun streaming right in the beginning of 2015. I think it was like February of 2015 I had started. So I was streaming every night. I was really building an audience. It was great, good times. And then that kind of hit me during the summer, and I had to take off. So that's why I say 3 months, because that's been about the longest I ever took off from the game. And I was running a guild. Our name was Vindictive. We were on the Bastion at the time. And it was generally social, but we had a couple, 3 hardcore team, like raid teams that were running. About 150 active accounts in that thing. So it's a large, a mid-sized to large guild. I mean, it was a pretty strong guild. And I handed it to a second, expecting that I wouldn't be that long. I'd just like run it for now. And when I came back 3 months later, that guild was like crickets. Nobody was there. That most of them had like gotten together and like had joined. I think it was, well, the hardcore raiders had joined Failure, who I think is still active on the on Satil Sean these days, and I think they still raid. I haven't checked in with him for a while, but I mean, yeah, like the whole guild disappeared on me. So, and it was weird because my gaming experience, once you become a guild leader, everything changes for you. And I don't think I could experience SWTOR without running a guild. And there were people that like have come and gone from the game, taking breaks, and when they come back, they're like, "Hey, are we going to start the old guild up again?" I still get that these days, And I'm like, "Well, I'm tempted." And then they end up on the pub side. I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I can't do it. So it just is what it is. But we still keep up with each other, which is kind of cool. But
Also, they are good people.
I do have some good friends. I have some good friends, Redna, not all of them. Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, Elise, though, that definitely running a guild, it keeps you kind of tethered to it, because you feel responsible for other people, and sometimes I think as a guild leader that challenges a little bit of your the time that you should take a break. A lot of times you're trying to be present for other people, and so kind of being a parent, I think, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
when really you need to take a break.
Yeah, and I don't know if we want to touch on it later, or now, or whatever, but just when you read like the forums and people getting salty, you just what I see over and over again is more anger about not necessarily the game, but the game is the vehicle for those relationships and responsibilities and
Right.
whatever. As the game is not going the direction, say, for example, that person needs it to be, I can't help but feel like some of those folks are probably because that's exactly what's happening. Their
That's their
friends are
social
leaving,
life.
they're
Right.
losing their social life, and they don't.
And that hurts
And the
more than
game
just
was
the
that
game. Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense,
facilitated
right?
that. Right.
It makes a lot of
So,
sense because you, especially like when you're doing end game operations content or whatever, and you've got like a core group, a team that you're working with. If it's a healthy team, you're actually forging some relationships that you really enjoy hanging out with those people around a
Right.
common goal, you know? And then if, you know, the operations go 18 months without a new operation and then they swear they'll never do that again and then 2 years later there's no operation, like of course those people are going to go to different games or go somewhere where there's content that they want. And you know, it's hard on an individual to do that because you've invested a lot of time to get to the place where you can do that with this team. You don't want to necessarily go to another game and invest that much time into another game that may end up doing the same thing. So of course there's saltiness. Yeah, and I agree with you. I hadn't considered it, but that makes a lot of sense that it's not just the fact that the game isn't providing you with the type of content that you want, it's also impacting your social life.
mhm.
Right. And so then you're asking yourself questions about my own personal health, right? I get to hang out. All right, look, so the same happens at work when people get, you can make friends of people at work. I tend to be buddies with people at work, but I don't necessarily go hang out with them afterwards. Or, that's just a choice I do. All my friends are really around here and they're kind of far away because I commute. But that's always an option available to me, is that I have those friends. But if one of my friends gets fired, say, now what? How does that affect my friendship? And I think those are questions that we have to ask ourselves in life all over the place. And I think the healthiest choice that you can make, and maybe we can unpack this a little more as we go in the next section, but is to maybe make sure that not all my eggs are in one basket, in a sense. Because if EA turns off SWTOR tomorrow, I've got to make some friends, and I've got to do it in a hurry. So yes, we'll get there. At least you want to talk about the poll results at all?
Yes.
Let me send a chat the regular results for a chat.
So, so we had 190 votes, and what were the results for chat? I'm sorry, I forgot to ask.
Oh, well, chat. Let's see here.
We have chat. We always ask chat results first.
Yes, one of them was about a month. We had 3 that were about 3 months, and one for about a year. But that was about all we had in chat.
5 for half a year.
5 for half a year? Oh, yes, it was 5. You're right. Okay.
So 5 for half a year was number 1? I'm
Yep.
sorry.
And that compares to our major poll results. How?
Well, before we go, I just had to read this. I read it before we started, but I have to read this one again. On Reddit, we had some comments. And my favorite was still on a break, but I check this sub once in a while to see if there's anything new on the horizon. It's been 2 years so far.
So they're in the community,
And then
keeping an eye on
somebody
things.
Yeah, somebody replied back to that. 6 for me, or whenever the first expansion came out. Yeah. So there were others, but that one was pretty funny.
Now I'm gonna laugh if
Sid-
they're the saltiest people in the forums. It's like, yeah, they're complaining, blah,
Well,
blah, and they
there
don't
was-
even play.
I mean, there is some of those.
Yeah.
You know, there are. Somebody else was like, "Wow, was savage." She said he came back this week, logged on 2014. Basically went on to say they inherited a guild, but ended up basically kicking everybody in the guild and taking all the stuff that was in the bank.
Yeah.
All their friends had quit.
Ooh, I
Okay,
should check
fair
my
enough.
characters. Maybe I've got a guild.
He quoted, well, he said, to be fair, the last deposit in the bank was also in 2014. And then he quoted Rule 42.6 of the Sith Code, Finders Keepers.
Just Keepers. Sounds like a Ferengi, but that's a different game.
Wow. All I
No.
could say is, wow, savage, dude. Somebody else said they came over. It's been 6 years. I came over from Star Wars Galaxies, and I beta tested SWTOR. So I think
Yep.
right now you said somebody might roll in like that, and maybe subscribe for a month or two, then left. Looks like their son got them back into playing, free to play, and they've been consistently playing.
The rules of acquisition. Yes, Kid Lee. I'm so glad somebody
And
knows what I'm
actually,
talking about.
Yeah,
and
there's
actually,
some other.
mention in response to our, breaking, it having an impact on social ties and whatnot, that she's doesn't want to rate anywhere else. She did take a break because of some personal stuff. It was to a point where she dreaded logging on because of a single person. And after moving servers, she was finally able to breathe again and get back into the game, which I think she hinted at in the past on the show. So.
Mm.
It's that's the sort of stuff which BioWare has been called to task multiple times in the past about that kind of behavior where a single individual can impact someone else's game so toxically by character hopping, essentially stalking, that kind of behavior, that it can drive people away. I've been tempted under those circumstances when all of the tools in the game are just completely insufficient to deal with a dedicated, terrible human being. I think it's unfortunate that does occur.
Now, Redna, I will actually say, in preparation for this episode, one of the things that I couldn't seem to shake out of my mind was an episode of Utinicast back when you were on that show. Where I seem to, like in Utinicast, they go around and they just kind of talk about what's been going on in your week for a few minutes at the beginning. And I remember, Redna, one of the things that you said was like, I'm dealing with a stalker that I can't seem to get rid of, and they're bothering the fire out of me, and they're finding me all over the place, and it's really been my week in this game. I actually remember that.
Yeah. That was fun.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
It was, yeah.
the negative side of community.
There's no way to mute or block an account, right? You're only able to do it on characters, and this guy just kept making more and more and more characters. And actually, what happened in that circumstance was something funky was going on the back. I assume on the back end anyway for BioWare, but like. I banned like 4 of the guy's characters, and then he switched to another, and then I tried to ban it, but it stopped allowing me to ban his additional characters. So he just kept on, spamming me, and I'm trying to stream. Eventually, the guy even ended up finding my stream, and
sniping.
I would block and boot him permanently from channel, but then he kept making new email accounts and new Twitch accounts to keep jumping in, and he was talking about sodomizing animals and racist stuff, and I mean it was really nasty behavior. That was pretty interesting. I think the whole thing just started because I was in a PvP match and the guy had been really abusing other team members. Well, it hadn't even been me at the time, but we ended up losing, of course, because the guy essentially through the game, and I had just made a quip on the way out. It's hard to win any matches when you've got someone as toxic as this in the group, and that just triggered him, that he just decided, and like he stalked me in game and then on Twitch for like 2 weeks. It was
yeah, that's
and rough. It's like and the crazy part is like he was spending so much time on jumping characters. I'm like, dude, this guy is literally spending hours not playing the game just to harass another person. Like, there's something really weird about that, like obviously mentally disturbed and probably needed real life help, but it's just unfortunate that there are people that their lives are so sad that they
they can dedicate that much time, I think, to something that is really just creates misery for everyone. I agree.
Yeah.
At least
can't even imagine.
We need to share the the poll results here.
Hey, okay, so the number one option was a year. It was E, ever been missing for a year. I have, with 82 votes, or 43%. Second was Don't Tell, but it was about half a year. That's D at 38 votes. Third is Forever Not Back Yet with 28 votes, or 15% of the total. Crazy I Know, but about 3 months is number 4 with 18 votes. A Break Never is 12 votes. And B was last about a month with 12 votes, and that is a tie with A break never. So those two came in tied. It's 12 votes apiece.
Right.
So there you go.
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm really glad to see that we've got, what is that, like 60, over 70% of the respondents apparently are still playing the game, and yet they've taken 3 months or more off. Like, to be frank, that's actually kind of encouraging for if we're going to be talking about being healthy. Like, I think it's a good thing to take a break. You really shouldn't be so devout eternally. I mean, it's fine. Some people have their circumstances, but for me, that's an encouraging statistic.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. It's better to take a break than to get salty.
Yeah, frankly. Agreed. So what we're talking about in the results kind of getting, I think, a little bit tweaked was that we allowed people to pick all that apply, as opposed to just picking one option, in which case you'd have to think, okay, what was the longest one that, quote, fits me, however that it does, and then pick that single option there. So, but I think what happens is that you have what I would expect in the poll result, and that was that some people have taken a little bit of time off. Then a larger group has taken more time off. Then a larger group than that has taken more time off than that. Because you get the, I couldn't really call it a bell curve, but it works its way up to that group of people that have taken off from the game, maybe started at launch, kind of kept up with the game, but haven't been back since. Or slightly less than that as you come to the more active players. So I do definitely think that reflects a long-term community, and I would expect that to look that way with every game that's been out as long as SWTOR has. It would, obviously, because you have to have the game live longer than a year in order for people to say, yes, I've taken a year off. So I guess that makes sense too. now that I think it out, but yeah. So we have to start talking a little bit about what some of the aspects of this. We've touched a little bit already on toxicity and toxic players. So the idea is there's this positive and negative to this community, right? The positive side is that we have a community of friends that are supportive, that we enjoy their company. We get together, we do raids, we do PvP or whatever else like that, and we've got friends. The positive social life. And there's that aspect of that where if they take off from the game, I miss them. Essentially, the game becomes the forum that I interact with them. The negative side of community is, of course, what Redden has experienced, where you have trolls and evil people that will find you and will spend all their time in Fleet Chat, for instance, talking trash, or people that will jump from the game to your stream and come hunt you down, all of those kind of things. So there's definitely good, and it's just like real life. Good and bad side to community. So let me surface a question. How do you avoid this kind of toxicity? Or let's think a little bit about avoidance strategies for this kind of toxicity, engaging trolls. And I think the danger for us is being sucked into that kind of toxicity so that we display some of it ourselves. Redna, did the guy just go away in the end? How did you deal with him while you were dealing with him, and how did the problem resolve? Because I take it it's not still happening.
No, it did stop. That was years ago. That was the most egregious. I mean, there have been a few, and the thing is, sometimes it's not entirely malicious. Well, it's not intended to be as terrible as all that. I think, like, because you talk about engaging the trolls. Sometimes it's fun to troll people, and sometimes it's fun to engage the trolls. Some back and forth and lightheartedness. Don't take things too personally.
Right.
Develop a bit of a thick skin. Like, there is something to be said for that, right? Like, you shouldn't be. Don't let anybody allow you to be a victim, right? Because most of the time, victimization isn't actually due to someone else's behavior. It's because you've allowed them to have that kind of an impact on you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a choice on your part to be a victim or to have become a victim.
Right. And so, and I mean, it has been years. Part of it, I think, is just general maturity. But I don't know. I mean, you see, like, there's an author for Star Wars. I'm trying to remember his name now. Chuck Wendig, who he loves Twitter to engage the trolls. Like they come after him hardcore. And I mean, it's every type of individual across the spectrum comes after him, and he loves to engage them. And the thing is, he's completely sarcastic. He gives as good as he takes. And he doesn't, and I've seen people ask him directly, why are you engaging the trolls? You're just encouraging them. And he's like, well, that's fine. I don't mind encouraging them because I enjoy engaging with them. Like
sounds like a community manager.
Right, like he enjoys the back
Yeah.
and forth. For him, it's
Right.
pure banter. Even if they're being deadly serious, he just refuses to take it that way. And I think there's something to be said for, like part of the way that you can avoid the toxicity is refusing to allow it to actually be toxic for you. On the flip side, for me, okay, every character I make, every time I log in, I turn off Gen Chat universally. Right?
Yeah.
A huge part of it for me has been because I've been a part of podcasting for so many years and communities that are not necessarily even a part of a social media, because it's something I even wanted to bring up. In a lot of ways, I think what we could even be discussing on a larger context is all of these questions as they apply to social media, right? I mean, you get a lot of entitled, outraged individuals that feel like their voice needs to be heard, and if they don't feel that they are, then they're going to go and spam their message in front of you, right? In general chat, on social media, in your chat room, whatever.
Discord, yeah, no kidding.
Right. And so the other thing that I've really done, and actually as a streamer, one of the easiest things, some of the most extreme examples aside, is I have certain like lines. Don't abuse other members of my chat room. Don't abuse people in my stream that are being broadcasted. I will instantly ban people for using certain terms, or if they attack somebody else in the chat room. I actually don't mind if they turn some of that on me. I can spin that into, a joke, or you're absolutely right. I do suck at this game. Man, I wish I were better. And the irony is that my chat room usually shows up, and most of the people in my chat room are there to help me, to give me tips,
right?
And not be like, God, you suck. Why aren't you doing this? Instead, it's like, hey, all right, you're doing a lot better tonight. The next thing that you might want to incorporate in your gameplay is this, right?
Yeah.
And part of it too, though, is that I just don't have the energy to actively build in-game community. So I'm really glad that I've got out-of-game communities that I can plug into in-game to participate. And realistically, the biggest way that I've even tied in has been through Extra Life, tying in with Passionately Casual, Bad Feeling podcast, all of these other groups, and then we all ended up forming into at least having some characters within a single guild, so that I can be tied in and be aware of events and things like that. Because I've unplugged from forums for years, other than what you guys link to me. I'll do the research that you guys share with me, or the chat room shares with me, or whatever. And for me, that's been my way to mitigate any kind of toxicity. Oh, and actually on top of that, being realistically, I really am quite contrarian. So whenever anybody comes into my chat room and says,
surprise,
this game is still going, I'm like, yep, still going, still making millions, still having hundreds of thousands of players. Sorry that you're not around. Sucks for you. It's like,
right.
I refuse to be brought down or get too toxic on the game, because so many of the vocal people are that way, and I'm going to be contrary to that.
Yeah. Well, I think also, so this kind of bridges on another thing, and I think we've touched on this multiple times, reading through what you're saying. You choose your attitude. And I think what's happened on the part of a lot of people, they've chosen a salty attitude, and they want to be salty, and all of the evidence they find is going to back up the saltiness, and that makes them more salty. And so it kind of becomes an echo chamber. They find other salty people. They get on the forums. There's lots of salt there. You can find that. And so it becomes an echo chamber that reinforces that attitude. Compare that to Twitch, for instance. And this is Red, and I definitely, as a streamer, share your experience here. It's generally a positive community. People are there because they like the game. They want to watch the game. They're there to be your friend. They're there to be supportive. And by and large, I think within any typical stream channel, you'll find a positive community of people that are actually there to enjoy the content together. I would say the same for guild chat. For instance, on the Discord server, it's a community of friends that are there to enjoy the game, and you may have people, one or two peel out, whatever, and sometimes there's guild drama. But by and large, people are there because they want to be there and they want to be friends together, and that's half the thing. So I think it really, it not only is there's a circle to it, right? My attitude affects those around me. Those around me affect my attitude, and I think in a lot of ways, who I surround myself with helps to determine what that is, and it's just a choice as to who I want to be and the kind of attitude that I have, and it affects the community as well. So, at least, do you want to say anything to the communal aspects of healthiness at all? Have I put you on the spot?
Are we talking about all of them? Or are we talking about okay? So.
The first 2 points here.
Okay, that's
Yes.
what I was asking. I didn't want to be specific. Are we talking about point 1 or point 2? Yeah,
Yes, people, we have show notes, okay? We, the council of all people, have show notes. I know it's a shocker, but we do.
I've been on both sides. I was rah sis boom ba when I first started the game. I really enjoyed the game before 4.0. If I had a choice, there was gear everywhere. Gear rained from the skies prior to them tightening it up in 4.0. And so that was my happy place. And I started, when I started was right when the first, well, I'm sure there was a previous Exodus, but the most recent mass raider Exodus happened when COP was announced and there was not going to be a raid, and when all of the Nightmare Raiders left. And
that was a very those were the dark times.
Yes.
In SWTOR.
Yes, it was soon after that, I think.
The Clone
Public
Wars.
Radio decided to say adios, everybody, and so when that all happened, so there was a heck of a lot of saltiness, and I wasn't in the guild yet at that point, and I was on the forums because that made sense to me to go to find out about the game, being a solo player at the time, and so I was all, you guys need to be quiet, just go play another game, man, if you're mad, blah blah blah, whatever. And now I find myself kind of on the other side going, I'm not salty, I'm not flaming people on the forums, but I can kind of see a little bit better, their side of it now that I'm on this side. I'm not as salty as them because, again, I play the game that's in front of me in general, and if I don't like it, I move on. That's been my MO for pretty much every game I've ever had. I play it. If I don't like it, I move on. I don't yell about it. But that kind of, I can see that. So I try not to get to the point where I'm getting on the forum and calling people Care Bears and whatnot. That just is not my...
Yeah, abusiveness.
It's not my style.
I was actually in a guild called the Care Bears. I really enjoyed that.
I think that's just hysterical.
There's Care Bear Tickle Party on Satil Sean.
Exactly. I think Jess one time put up on Twitter, if you were going to be a Care Bear, what kind of Care Bear would you be? And people started saying, I'd be blah, blah, blah. That was hysterical. So my way of dealing with feeling like I'm doing too much is just to play another game. So I find that you appreciate coming back when you go play another game.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you come back to the game you went to go play another game, back to it, it feels slightly different, at least for a little while. So that's always been my thing. Although I have to say I've never been with a game as long as I have been with this one. So you remember, again, I did not play MMOs, and they really are not my...
Right. That's definitely true. I think MMOs, compared to a lot of other games, they take an awful lot of investment, time investment, the kind of work that you put into your character. And not only just leveling them up, but then also doing things. By then, you're a member of the community. MMOs are definitely designed to be a long-term investment and something that you play a lot. If you're the short-term gamer where you just kind of dig into a game, you knock the thing out, you beat it, quote unquote, and then you leave, then MMOs are typically not the game for you. But if you're kind of in the middle, kind of like Elise is, I can see how an MMO would become the background, right? It's the community that we're in, and actually, I like to watch on Discord because Unholy Alliance, a guild that we're all in, is a decently large guild, and everybody's doing everything. Nobody's playing the game, but we're all a community of gamers that we organize an event on Friday night, and boom, everybody's there. It's just fantastic, because the MMO game that we all play together is the background in the midst of multiple other games. And you'll see people getting together on Warframe, getting together on Titanfall 2, getting together on, Division or whatever else, which is kind of half the fun. Is it transcends the forum that we met in and has become something larger than that. So
yeah, and that was one of the things. JT actually was the one who brought up the idea that we become more multi-gamer because, again, when I started, there was a big mass exodus of the officer crew when I came into Unholy Alliance. Mm-hmm. I was here for maybe about 6 months, and the majority of the officers left. Like one fell swoop almost
right.
for several of them. And that kind of was the way. If you left SWTOR, you kind of they disappeared. And you didn't really see them anymore. Maybe one or two people would still be talking to them, but unless you had their number, let's say,
right.
not exactly, but you'd lose them. And JT was like, let's not do that. I think we should, let's not lose our friends just because maybe they decide the SWTOR isn't where they're at right now.
Right.
And really, I think that's a good thing. And I'm seeing it more and more in other guilds. I'm in another one for Destiny and some other games where we don't have enough people to kind of play it. And they've done kind of the same thing. They've diversified. Having guild just for one game, really, with the number of multiplayer games that just seem to be hitting the market, I think is going to become harder and harder to really, unless it's a purely raiding, nightmare hardcore raiding guilds. Social guilds, I think, are really going to struggle, and they need to be more multi-gaming. Personally, it just seems to be what I'm seeing. So,
right.
Which overall I think is a good thing.
Yes, indeed. Let me ask you guys about addiction, the topic of addiction, because on one hand, you have burnout. Okay, that's when you play it too much and you get sick of it, and that's obviously where you need to take a break. But on the flip side of that coin is addiction, where you've been playing too much and your real life is suffering. Have you ever kind of bordered on that? In any time with maybe in gaming in general? I don't know, at least if you've ever dug into this game that intensely. I could say I have. I've played this game probably too much in times before, and typically I notice that corresponds usually to times in my life where I feel like my life is not really making much progress. A previous job that I was in, it was hourly. It was 11 or 12 hours a day. It was grueling. It was hard. I would come home. I was brain dead. It was a way to have some adventure and to actually see progress and to build and do something positive and to enjoy that. Because there's a part of my personality. I want to see progress. I want to build something. I want to accomplish and achieve something. And so it was fulfilling that need. And so what happened was that with things being terrible in my job life, I was actually getting too addicted to this game. And so other things were suffering, some of my personal life, family time, and stuff like that. I think there's probably, and this is definitely the kind of discussion where we could dig deep in and have Dr. SWTOR come back. and because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have gaming addiction that he ends up dealing with. And of course, that's a big thing right now. But I think part of the important thing about gaming addiction is I think people become addicted to a game for a reason. It is providing a need in their life that they're not getting from outside of the game, and so things get out of balance.
Or substituting for a need.
Or substituting for a need, right. It's like, it's like, I don't know, I'm even going to try a terrible analogy, but yeah.
It's interesting because actually I would say when I was in college, it wasn't necessarily dissatisfaction with life circumstances or events, but it was definitely a lot harder. And I would say this was during when I played World of Warcraft, though. But nevertheless, I would definitely say I got addicted. I was playing too much. I was losing sleep. I even missed a few tests for classes. There were all sorts of things that I allowed to happen because I was much more interested in, I mean, in getting my character leveled up and joined up with my friends who were also in college but had, spent several months longer than me. And then wanting to be the best, like I drove all of my competitive nature into it. It was definitely an unhealthy addiction, as opposed to, I would say, when I got into this game, I don't know that I was ever particularly addicted. I think there were definitely times where I might have played to an unhealthy extent, but it was more because of what you referred to, where my life circumstances, my personal life, that was so kind of devoid of any particular meaning and also most of my friends were in other parts of the country, so this was like the one game I could get in and at least be doing something with my real life friends, to working together towards common goals or whatever. But I really like my real life was so empty aside from having a pet dog that
Right.
I went to work, made my money, and then got online and put all my time there because that's the only way I could really spend time with people that I cared about. And
Sure. Now, yeah, I think
probably just as unhealthy, but I don't think it was particularly addiction, because then once I got back around people and had friends, I was unplugging from the game, prioritizing those relationships and that time outside of the game, because I was able to actually have similar interactions, but in the real life again.
Yeah.
I would just like to say, though, that for me, real life friends and in-game friends oftentimes can cross over and become one can turn into the other.
Yes.
So I don't have any friends that share. So I am a video game enthusiast, not like a beer enthusiast or a
Spoiler
wine
alert,
enthusiast
right?
or a sports enthusiast or,
You're a video game connoisseur.
Yes. I mean,
Turn it up.
I read books about the history of studios. Yes, I'm that nerdy, but it's more than just, oh my God, I've got to play. I really like to dig down and just anybody who has a hobby and really enjoys their hobby.
Guys,
And
Elise is
so
reading EA's financial reports. Just
Well,
putting that out there.
job posting.
It's true. It is true, though, right? Because it's not just so when you get hyper focused on a single game, what do? You're reading the patch notes every time they come out. You're catching every little different change and nuance or whatever's on the roadmap and what's coming, and that's what you're tied into. Whereas it's always been really interesting talking with you, Elise, because you're more of the industry addict. It's not just the playing of the game, but it's the everything behind it as well.
I like video games as an industry. I mean, I was reading this guy, I was reading an article by this gentleman who actually makes recommendations of stocks you could buy, and he went into this whole thing about how Activision Blizzard was a good buy and went through all this. And I'm now following this dude just to see if he does another studio, because I want to see that is how nerdy I am. I'm doing all of it, but I know I'm in that weird age and where I live where no one that is a friend of mine in real life here where I live nearby plays video games, except for my co-host for VCR podcast.
Right.
But he is 20 years younger than me, so not the same generation. So people of my same generation just don't play.
And there's a clash between some of those old generational values. There was a time, once upon a time, where you went out and you made friends, right? That was what you did. And whether you had to go to a bar to do it, or you had to join some kind of a social club, or you made friends at church, or you were supposed to go out of your house and go make some friends, and then you could bring them home. But that was how you made friends. And I think what's happened is that paradigm of how one makes friends is clashing with a new paradigm which says I can have friends all over the world. We just meet and we just talk to each other through a screen. My goodness, here we are having a discussion, and we're all over the United States, which I think is great,
Right. But it's gone even further than that, because I've met you in person. We've had a drink.
Yes. I have
Had
pictures,
I need
everybody, of Elise
yes.
grilling Eric Musco. It's one of my favorite pictures. But I have it,
So
and it's a
I've
memory.
met
Yeah.
Redna in person. We've had drinks and talked, and shared nachos. So, I mean, like, your in-game friends can become a real life friend if you choose to go there. And
Right.
that to me, when we start talking about addiction, there really needs to be nuance there, because it's
Mm-hmm.
not just, do you do everything online? Do you not really have, eh, real life friends? A lot of my friends that I have in game are real life friends too. So
I came to this game because this was literally the first time. We didn't think we were playing MMOs again. We were playing together League of Legends, but these were college friends that I played with in real life. Like, we would do LAN parties in college,
Mm-hmm.
and that just expanded into playing online together when we scattered after college, But absolutely. And then since then, there are certainly people. And I mean, heck, I met my wife at a community cantina for this game. It was a real life meeting, but nevertheless, that was it wouldn't have happened without my online gaming community.
Right. And we know several other people who have met their spouses or significant others in game. So
Right.
I think it's a nuance. I was playing a lot when I first started playing this game so that I could actually spend time with a friend who lived in South Africa, my friend who got me into the game. And I would be up until 11 o'clock at night because he would be getting up
Mm-hmm.
like
That's
doing
tough.
work, and he would
Right.
start, like, he would get on before work so that we could actually go run a raid together. And it was really
That
the
is
only time I actually
dedication.
got
I don't get
it
up
was the
for
only
nothing
time I
but work.
really get to talk. So
Yeah.
it was yeah. So, and at those times, like, my family was like, what are you doing? But I was like, well, I can only talk to him at blah blah blah. So there's
Right.
it's a continuum.
Yeah. It was funny. Neff was just saying in chat that because Kirk lives here in the Dallas area. I live in the Dallas. Neff is in the Dallas area. They've Neff. Maybe you can say this in chat or something. But I think they've gotten together for drinks, and I've been invited. I've just not ever gone.
Yeah,
I need to
go.
show up for that kind of thing. My goodness,
Kirk
have
is
some, make some.
awesome.
Yeah, Kirk is a blast to hang out with. That's for sure. He's one of our officers in Unholy Alliance, and
He's
is
got some of the best stories.
a good friend. So
Yeah.
good times.
Yeah, I've actually met with Bad Feeling podcast crew on multiple occasions, and they came into town, which has always been fun.
Right. Yeah, and I've met with them as well. Brian and Chuck are fantastic. They're a lot of fun to hang out with. I've hung out with TMG, Tank Mike Golf. Anyone who's watches Twitch. And that's half the fun is when you meet outside the game. I remember back in the days, it was when Counter-Strike was a thing. That's how I made all my college friends. We were a real small private college, and everybody was all of the guys would get in their dorms and then play Counter-Strike against each other. And I knew every guy. This guy had this name, and he was my nemesis, and that dude. And
it's still the thing, right?
I know it is, but Counter-Strike is like, I mean, it's only like the hardcore people are left playing that thing. But anyway, so it was funny because I'd be in the cafeteria, for instance, and I'd hear some guys talking about it over there, and one of them would be like, and I'd be like, hey, you guys are players, right? They're like, yeah. So what's your name in the game? Oh, well, my name is X. I'm like, oh, dude, I hate you. and then we'd be friends from then on. So it was just like, I love how gaming is an engine for building community, making friends, definitely.
Well, anybody that ever came across the clan in Warcraft 3, the clan Drunken Brotherhood, shout out
to all your friends. Yes, indeed. All right, guys, I suppose we should probably jump into announcements and kind of get this thing wrapped up. I just want to make sure that everybody knows, and I'm not going to belabor this. I promise that we won't do it. There's a news scroller down below that you can keep up with the news. But check out the forums. There's a lot that's being posted right now about Season 9 ranked rewards. Those are decided. The duration of Season 10, go check that out. There's also the idea of allowing older players that play ranked right now to buy ranked rewards from like Season 1. For instance, but for exorbitant prices. It's an idea they're kicking around. One of the great things that BioWare is doing right now is allowing us to have feedback and this is no time before has this game been like this. It's usually been, hey, we in the studio have put together this, here's our product, and then the community just kind of receives it how the community receives it. Right now they are opening it up to people to give their advice and to speak to things about the direction of the game, unlike they've ever done before. So definitely get in there, be a part of that discussion. It's very cool. So just check out the dev posts on the forums.
Or what one ought to say is they've opened it up before. They've just never actually done anything with people's feedback.
Right.
Now they're actively
But they are
acknowledging and adjusting based off of that feedback, which is awesome.
And there's some talk the PTS is coming at some point, and I think 5.9. Is it 5.9.2's changes are going to go live on the PTS? I don't know if that's a thing. Anyway, so there's some I think it's supposed to be an open thing. So anyway, like we'll keep you guys apprised of all of that. But yeah, there's some cool things coming, and they want the community to feed back. So let's definitely do that. The only other announcement that I have is that we are a little bit behind on our recordings, the ones that go out to the podcasts. That's mostly my fault. In fact, it is entirely my fault. I can't even put that on Redna at all. I'm just a little bit behind in the editing, so I'm working on I think 43 right now. I think 42 went out earlier this evening. So and we are on 46 now. So we're okay. We're just a month behind. So we will redouble our efforts to try to get those out there. Definitely catch us on Patreon as well. That's going well. We're adding. We've got some good content coming out, as well as our after show chat sessions, and we maybe continue for like a half hour when the show is done. So definitely tune in on Patreon if you would like there for our subscribers. Good stuff. Brenda, you have anything to say?
Yeah, actually, it was dawned on me. You've been doing this announcement section, and we should totally start announcing the fact that there's a San Diego Comic-Con coming, and there's has become an annual. This will be the third annual PUCT get-together between the Passionately Usual Council Trap Cantina.
Council Trap.
So there's the usual podcast, the Passionately Casual podcast, us, because Elise will definitely be there, and it's a trap because maybe I'll be there again. It's kind of hard to say that I will be when I have a newborn that I'm reticent to.
Kids will slow you way down. That's true. Oh yes.
But
yeah,
it'll be the Friday of the San Diego Comic-Con, and actually look up the usual, or ask us or something. There's an address. It's the Mission Brewery, right? The Mission Brewery on like Friday night. Yeah. Let's pretend it's like 6 p.m. I don't actually.
We can get better details the next.
That's right.
We'll put those out there. That's for sure.
It's in what, 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks?
Sure. Is it on
the 20th? Is that Friday?
Yeah, 20th. So
good times. Yes.
Yeah, totally show up if you happen to be going to San Diego Comic-Con. You should totally show up. I've been there several times, and it appears there's a lot more people actually going this year. Elise was there last year. That's when I finally got to meet her. It was awesome. Yeah. And anybody else that wants to meet the likes of Jesse or Elise or Marshall or Will or I'm trying to remember who else there even is.
Steve, who doesn't stream, but he's in Unholy Alliance and IAE, right?
That's right.
Max and Seema's Guild.
Yeah. Yes, it's a good viewing. Usually we figure out some way to do some portion of live stream. There's always a recording that gets sent out on the general podcast feeds, so worth showing up. And I figured I've never actually effectively advertised before, so I put it out there. The question is Elise thankful?
I don't know. I don't think I'm as thankful, or at least as good at being as thankful as Magic Ace. But I will do my best unless she wants to jump in and chat and do thank yous from typing.
She's probably going to judge whichever one of us even attempts this. So just
don't even bother.
Throw that out there.
I'm okay with failure. So I'm going to jump in here and say thank you for joining us. We appreciate you supporting us on Patreon. We appreciate you downloading all of our, listening to us on the podcast or on YouTube, commenting on our polls, taking the polls,
Hating on us,
retweeting.
Reddit.
Yeah, beating on us Reddit. Although I didn't get flamed too, we didn't get too flamed too bad on this one. Yes, thank you for participating. It makes the show much more entertaining and fun when you do.
This is a community thing, guys, and we're glad that you're along for the ride. We're doing this
Yeah.
for you. We're doing this with you, and we are glad to be a part of the community. I enjoy the community. I hope that you enjoy the community, and I'm glad that we get to have this in common. I think it's a blast. It's a ride of a lifetime.
Yes.
And how do I avoid burnout? Doing this show.
There you go. A place to dump a little salt, I think, is okay. On occasion.
That brings us to the end of the episode. The council is adjourned. If you'd like to reach us, you can email us at thecouncil@thecouncilswotor.com. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/thecouncilswotor. You can find Elise on Twitter at abrown35, Magic Ace at the Magic Ace. That's with a J and a K. Me at R3D4, and Sakari at I am Sakari. Also, don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/thecouncilswotor, where patrons can catch the articles we're talking about behind the scenes and exclusive backstage access to our after show chatter. That's it for this week, guys. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter.
Nice.
I understand.
You are on this council, but we do not grant you the rank of master.
What? How can you do this? This is outrageous. It's unfair. How can you be on the council and not be a master?
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
Forgive me, Master.